Allegedly, Arthur Blank is in full support of Raheem Morris, according to him. And I quote, "He is 100% in support," Morris said Monday. Dear God. What's going on? It's your boy C-Mo to C Mitchell, checking in with another Falcons Bird Bath. I'm going to tell you a few of the key reasons of really just what's wrong with the Falcons overall. Not just in the slacking that we took against the Seahawks, but just issues that have just completely overall plagued us throughout the whole season. We'll dive into it and examine it a little bit deeper than we have, but first and foremost, if you love what we're doing over here, Point Game Official, hit that like and subscribe button. Drop a comment, let us know what you guys are thinking, and even hit that hype button for us a little bit. Small thing for you, but huge for us. It helps us to be able to continue to bring dope content to you on a weekly basis. I know I told you guys previously that firing the head coach and hiring a new coach wouldn't necessarily solve anything because we'd have growing pains with a new regime. And that's true. But at this point, Raheem has basically regressed, and now with our 9th straight losing season. And that's just unacceptable. Right now, at this point, you just fired him and gave a new coach an opportunity. Those growing pains might be an improvement because I don't think you can get much worse. At this point, we're eliminated. It's not all Raheem's fault, although majority of the problems are his fault because he is the captain of the ship in terms of player personnel and game planning. But there are a few instances that I would say are not 100% Raheem's fault. Our wide receiver room is severely lacking. Outside of Drake London, we don't have another wide receiver who could consistently beat one-on-one matchups and is going to consistently catch the ball if you try to take away Drake London or if you lose Drake London. We need another guy who, one, you could take the top off the defense, and two, you can just go to him if you need to. Now, we thought that Darnell Mooney was going to be that guy. Last year, he had a breakout career year, pretty much. But about 900, almost close to 1,000. He has problems off the line of scrimmage. He definitely can get deep on you, but he has far too many drops. He is not a sure-handed, reliable guy. And last year, they designed a lot more plays for him and went to him a lot more often than they went to Kyle Pitts. And he hasn't been more sure-handed than Kyle Pitts, in my humble opinion. I don't think he necessarily even deserved that to begin with. I know in the offseason I told you guys that we had the best 1-2 punch, or one of the best 1-2 punches at wide receiver. And so because I bought into the Darnell Mooney experience, I didn't think we needed more depth there. Thought it wasn't going to be enough balls to go around. But at this point, we're seeing we need better talent. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Drake London shut it down for the rest of the year because the Falcons have yet to get him a viable contract. And going into this season, I think there was a big question mark. I think after this season, we see how much the Falcons sorely miss him if he's not out there. And he gave you 800 yards in what? I think 10 or 11 games. Those are tremendous numbers. Second major area that we got problems with is special teams. And I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. But specifically, our kickoff coverage and our punt coverage teams have given up far too many big plays. We've had a couple touchdowns run back a few times. And on top of that, we're not able to generate great field position on our return game as well, too. But recently, they ran a kickoff back on us, and I thought it was very questionable that we had Arnold Ebiketie out there. He's a guy who's been known to be a bad open field tackler. Not sure why you would put him on a special teams unit like that, kickoff coverage, have him running down there to be able to make an open field tackle. Now, granted, Cordell Hodge did get blocked out of his lanes, it looked like, on that play, but you need to have guys that can kind of make up for that in case a guy doesn't do his job. That's what good units do. And I got to question just the decision-making by putting Ebiketie out there. Third, I'd say there's an issue with the offensive coordinator. Falcons fan forever says Michael Penix Jr. needs the right OC coach. He doesn't have that there, making him look like a bust. I think that having a QB whisperer would work dividends and just work wonders for him. You had Andy Reid and John Gruden helping out make Brett Favre a better quarterback. Andy Reid, again, helping make McNabb a better quarterback. Michael Vick a better quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, he made him a better quarterback. Think that having the right combination of head coach and offensive coordinator with the young quarterback budding is everything. Even in New England, Belichick imparted a lot of wisdom on Tom Brady on how to break down film and just assess and sniff out what's going on. Now, one of the biggest issues that I think I have with our offensive coordinator, aside from that, is that he's just not innovative enough. There's been far too many analysts and former quarterbacks and former players who call out Zack Robinson's offense being too predictable. I notice a lot of other offenses do when they play us, and we've got a really good defensive coordinator. But they try to use our aggressiveness against us. They use a defense's rules against them. I've seen things like the Seahawks this recent game. They have play action, and then they have that tight end who's in the slot act like he's sitting in for a pass block and then run him out on a delayed route. That got us a few times. I even saw when we played the Dolphins how Mike McDaniel, he simulated a play action fake, but he pulled the guards all the same as if it was going to be a power play. And he came back to the opposite side with a naked bootleg, hit the receiver for a nice little pickup. Other teams are playing chess matches with us, and they're trying to beat our coordinator. But our offensive coordinator, I feel like, does not do enough creatively like that, for example. Either of those instances. Just kind of see a lot of bland and vanilla things, and nothing else, we're going to just screen the hell out of everybody, which it works when it works, but there's far too many instances where we're running too many screen passes when we need to be doing other things. Use the defense's rules against them, how they would react within their defense. That's something that I heard Jeff Ulbrich talk about a lot when he coached against Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. I want to talk about what is specifically Raheem Morris's fault. Raheem was talking about how the turning point in the game was the kickoff return where they ran the ball back on us. But Kirk Cousins basically said that doesn't matter. We got to go out here and execute regardless. And they say the teams take on the identity of their head coach. He seems to be down about that. He seems to take these type of things to heart. He seems to see it as an impossible feat to kind of, overcome those type of things. And thus, I think our team kind of adopts that same mentality. I think the team is potentially just even giving up on them right now. You can see guys out there loafing on special teams and on certain plays as the game goes on. Our team seems to just kind of go with the emotions of whatever he's doing. But I feel like that lack of accountability, which kind of comes from up top with Arthur Blank, specifically not holding Raheem to the fire enough, at least from what I'm seeing. We see Raheem give players second chances far too often when they keep making mistakes. There's no accountability in that department, in my humble opinion, as well as with our offensive coordinator and our special teams coordinator. We got rid of Ike Hilliard, but the offensive coordinator's been bad this year, and our special teams coordinator's been really bad this year. And Raheem has not made adjustments to that. And those are things that I blame Raheem for. I think that a new coaching change could maybe do a little something to put some pep in the step of some of these guys. I don't think that the proper coach would allow some of the nonsense to go on that happens with it. One of the biggest things that I see with Raheem is that he's not making adjustments, and he's not adjusting to the adjustments that are being made as well, too. We'll have things working good for us in the first half. The team adapt to that, and it's as if they haven't fathomed that that could be stopped to have a pivot in case that happens. We'll have games that we go into the halftime tied up, and then we'll come back out after the half and just come out flat and give up a special teams play or something else like that. As a matter of fact, out of our opening drives going back to the beginning of the year, we're not scoring on those drives, and we're taking the ball first. We might as well kick the ball off, get the ball back in the second half, because we're not coming out there potently scoring and taking the lead. I think that the team gets a little discouraged and are not buying into what Raheem was saying anymore, because once the things that he says should happen don't happen, they're kind of panicking and wondering what's going on. And to be honest with you, that's kind of when you know it's time to get rid of the coach. When he seems to have lost the team, and right now Raheem seems to have lost the team. Now, one of the biggest things that I've heard people say is that Raheem needs to go to Zack Robinson and actually say, we're not going to run that play. We're not going to do this. We're going to go about things this way. So I decided to go and talk to some of the coaches at my alma mater, who I played high school football with, Marcus Jelks Dewan Payne over at Stevenson High School. Now, of course, the dynamic's a little bit different because Coach Jelks is the offensive coordinator and the head coach. D. Payne is the defensive coordinator, which is a little bit different where we have Raheem as a defensive-minded head coach. I don't want to give away too much in the interview. You guys look at it and let me know what you think. I want to ask you as a coach, and I mean, of course, your dynamic's a little bit different because you're an offensive coach, but one of the biggest things I've heard with the Falcons right now is how they don't like the play calling of Zack Robinson, myself included. I feel like at times they should run the ball a little bit more. But I even remember going back to the 28-3 thing in the Super Bowl. It was like, hey, Dan Quinn should have told them, no passes right now. Let's just run the ball. Would you go to them, and would that be disrespectful to be like, hey, no, do this? Or is it better to kind of stay hands off? What's the balance to any of that?
I mean, at the end of the day, as a head coach, you have to take control or have complete control over your program. And so everything is going to reflect back on the head coach. And so one of the sayings, or one of the things that I believe is that, if I'm gonna get fired as a head coach, I'm gonna get fired doing it my way. And so when it comes to offense or defense, I have heavy input into what's going on now.
Right.
With coordinators, obviously we sit down, we come up with a game plan, and we know how we're going to attack the game. But there is times in the game, where it's like, no, run the ball right here, or play safe right here, in this situation, or be aggressive right here in this situation. And so it's really just about communication across the board. But it really shouldn't be any moments where, as a head coach, that you're not dialed in and understand exactly what's going on in terms of the game. And granted, there can be, situations where, something happens, or your team does something, or a coach calls something that you don't necessarily agree with. And that's something, that's something that you can continuously work on. But it's just about communication and everybody being on the same page. And so at the end of the day, those things that are happening out there on the field represent you. And so, you gotta attack it like that. And so, being a leader, being in charge is one of those things where everything falls back on you. So it can't be a situation where you don't want to say something, to a coordinator, or I don't feel like it's a situation where you can ever not be involved or not know what's going on.
Right, definitely agree. Definitely agree. It's crazy, man. You guys seem a lot more disciplined and organized than our professional sports team, but I love it, man. I wish you guys luck on the game tonight, man. We were able to get this done pretty quickly. How much does the head coach step in to say, hey, we should do this on this specific down, and where does that set in, or is it always just to your own devices? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm constantly looking at the clock. I can kind of gauge how the game is going, how our offense is playing, how it is that we're playing. Try to make sure that you know how many possessions that you should expect. Once the game gets going, you can kind of figure out how much time is on the clock, and kind of figure out how many possessions you're going to get before the end of that quarter. And then that in turn allows you to kind of go into clock management mode. If you're doing a good job of it, you're trying to manage the clock pretty much the whole game, not just the last 4 minutes or the last 2 minutes of a quarter. Obviously, you have your 4-minute offense or your 2-minute offense that people like to run in order to get themselves in scoring position right before the end of the game or the half. It really just depends on your philosophy. Are you going to be a little bit more aggressive? Are you going to be in attack mode? Or basically how it is that you want to play the clock management game, so to speak. I know myself and Coach Jelks have a pretty good relationship in terms, and we're usually on the same wavelength in terms of how it is that we think and how it is we're going to manage a particular those particular types of situations. Obviously, you want to know how many timeouts you have, how many timeouts the other team has, and it's a whole set of scenarios. And we actually practice it. We practice it during competitive periods. I think something that has been good that kind of answers some of your other questions that you asked before is we have competition periods pretty much every day of practice, whether it be 2-minute, whether it be red zone period. And we've actually gotten, might be giving up a little bit of the secret sauce, but we actually let the players, they call it. We don't call any plays during some of those competition periods. So it gives them a sense of ownership in terms of what it is they're doing. You can actually see, what players are looking at, what it is they're seeing, what they're comfortable running, and coach them through, why this didn't work, why did that work? Or I'm asking them, hey, why you run that blitz? Why you run this coverage when you got this, as opposed to that? You definitely want to make sure that you understand where it is that you are and what it is that you're trying to do at that particular juncture of the game.
All right, guys, that's our show for today. If If you made it this far, again, hit that like and subscribe button for us. Huge for us, small thing for you. But this scene looks like it's a wash right now, and there's quite a few things that we can look forward to, which I'll hit you with in the next video. But don't let the Falcons get your blood pressure up. They lost. You didn't lose. C-Mo to C. Mitchell, checking out the Point Game Official. Falcons Bird Bath, baby. Peace.